mid-June 2018, like your life, it seems like, started in a way,
Mm,
like the next phase of who Cru is. Is that true?
I think so. I think so. But it felt bad for most of the point leading up to, maybe the last couple of years. And so I think I'll take it a social media route, right? Everybody is interested in post doing well or something exploding or being able to charge people to talk to you about your ideas and making their life better and all these things that maybe come as a result of putting the ideas out there. And everyone's really interested in, oh, how can I do that? I go, well, have you gone through the my analogy of 5, 6 years of life externally not really getting better, but just working internally? Have you done that part yet? Or do you just want to kind of fake it till you make it social media wise and then you'll learn? But the only problem is it's those years that actually make up something that's worth talking about or worth hearing or worth working with somebody on. And so, you know, I guess life started, um, but real cool life maybe started 2 years ago.
2 years ago. What
Yeah.
made 2 years ago the big shift for you?
Well, 2 years ago, the reason I say cool is to kind of poke fun at the fact that I have not changed that drastically because I've been very similar for a long time. But there was a me that thought exactly like this, that lived exactly like this, did the ice bath every morning, ran every morning, was thinking super intentionally, wanted the biggest impact, wanted everything, and was doing Uber Eats, driving around food that I just wanted to light on fire and throw out my window. And I'm, grabbing my steering wheel, man. I hate everything. My life sucks right now because I know what I could be doing, but I'm doing this. This is not what I'm meant for, but that's the same me. The only difference is now video got 52 million views and other videos did really well. And people now know about the ideas that I've had, even
Mhm.
since there was nothing to show for it. That's what I'm always so interested in. And I will say proud of, just because I can look back and say, yeah, I was sticking to my guns for a long ass time. I was posting the videos every freaking day. I mean, I was pouring my soul into every single one, and it's 2,000 views over and over and over again. And every couple weeks, I get to the breaking point of I hate making these videos. This is stupid. I'd rather just say this to myself in the mirror because I like this message, and now it's being diluted in its value because it gets 2,000 views on Instagram. When freaking Dumb and Dumber, they're out here getting 1 million views because they're saying something stupid. And so that's the real story of what all of that looked like. But the cool part, that's just a few things externally changed. But me, I've been around for a little while.
Of course. Yeah, yeah, man. I mean, you found a vehicle where you can actually put that work into. As well, I was just speaking, I don't know if you watch football at all, but last year in the Super Bowl, AJ Brown was reading a book on the sideline, and I just had the author of that book on the podcast that right before this actually, that went from selling like 8,000 books in like 8 years to like 200,000 in a week kind of thing. And it's kind of a similar thing to you where it was like, no, you were already doing the thing, and then something happens, and then now it's actually shown, and then you're able to create a vehicle out of that.
Yeah, I mean, and you build the vehicle too, and it starts with the little screw, and then you're putting the wheel on it's just nobody else will get to really see what that process looked like because, I mean, for thousands of people, if in the last month I've gained 10,000 followers, my existence is on day one to them.
Hmm.
The only person I've been around for every single moment for is myself. And then, maybe my mom or something for a lot of those leading up too. But yeah, I think that's what's so interesting. And yeah, you build the vehicle that then brings you to some sort of cool outcome. But dude, I mean, even just speaking again on social media, I'm about sick of the short form stuff. And, essentially for 2 years, 2.5 years, however long it's been, I have been trying to take my ideas, which exist in long form,
Mm-hmm.
and then put them in short form. And then I'm just getting pissed for years because it's not working. I do not think in 30-second sound bites. I just don't. And I still try. I'll still continue to try to boil something down in 30 seconds, but then I watch it back and I go, "Oh, well, I could have said this list of 100 things. I could have said this one book worth of ideas that I have about it, but no, we'll just leave it there." And then, you hope that there are some holes in it. So then people comment asking more questions, and then but I hate that shit. You know what I mean? And that's why, I just started my own podcast doing kind of a solo pod thing, which I'm
Mm-hmm.
freaking stoked about because I get nervous before everyone. And then I find myself in the middle going, oh, wait, no, I actually do think in this way. I actually do talk in this way. And then it comes out pretty damn good. And so, man, I have so many thoughts on that, but stop me.
No, dude, I love it. And dude, we are so similar in so many ways. When I first met you, and then I dove into, like, I knew, like, I've seen you before I met you. And then I, obviously doing a research for the pod, I was like, all right, let me dive into like who this dude is. And first off, I did short form as well. I also, when I started short form, I started my podcast as well. My first 100 episodes were solo as well. You're
Yeah.
going to love it because it's going to allow you to go so much deeper than the short form, which I also really don't love and completely fell out of love with doing for a while. But just like when you started short form, you weren't great. And then you got a lot more succinct with your words, and then makes long form even easier for you. That experience, how have you shifted as a person from the start of it to now?
Yeah. Yeah. I've learned a lot, man, I would say in the last month, because everything I care about, I will be thinking about it all the time. So
Yeah.
nearly every conversation I have these days is about what I'm just now talking about, the
Hmm.
short form versus the long form, the podcast. How can I give people something valuable, but not be misaligned in how I'm presenting it? Because why am I going to pour my soul into creating the tightest, best freaking message somebody's ever heard? Do that every single day, right? Which people wonder, man, how do you come up with the message every single day? And I go, man, how do I come up with the message and nobody gives a shit every single day? Right. And nobody is relative, right?
Very,
It's
very.
a pretty large following. Oh, I get, bad views, poor me. That aside, right? I definitely understand the privilege there that I'm speaking from. But I'm recognizing, why would I do that when the expectation or the reason somebody's on social media is so they can relax? Just watch something funny, maybe watch something interested, maybe get updated on the world around them. But the last thing somebody wants to go on Instagram to do is work. And though valuable, I'm literally putting work in front of people every single day that I'm posting. So it
Hmm.
changed recently. I'm not doing the daily video anymore because, and this is hard because I'm so based in principle. I go, well, I'm doing the thing every day. I made the promise to speak on essentially the thing every day, post about it every day, because I want to be the example. If somebody sees that every single time, nobody except me is thinking that about my content.
Hmm.
Maybe 10 people, and so I go, let me actually be smart. Let me present what's actually aligned with short form, which would feed into something like my podcast and the
Right.
ideas I really care about, which again are only going to realistically exist in long form. I find that the people who are most effective at short form are not selling their ideas, which that was my obsession. I want to say the best thing every time, no matter what. They're not doing that. They're
Hmm.
not selling the thought, because the thought can come from anywhere. The idea or the train of thinking only matters if the person knows what the source is. They have to know me. And I do not do a good job of getting people to know me through my content. Now, if I'm talking to somebody, easy,
Yeah.
but the content does not do a good job. So that's a huge shift for me, because really I'm super sarcastic. I love dark humor. I love just saying ridiculous things. I mean, my whole life was doing backflips and soccer tricks, and that, that is kind of more of who slash how I am for the most part. I'm also very serious and very, locked in and disciplined and intense about my life in those moments that I'm usually posting about, but that isn't just me. So big changes there, putting a lot more focus on personality, because that's what's going to give someone real permission to do the things like running every day, being really disciplined, eating super healthy, is if they have somebody they can go, oh, this guy actually is kind of like me, and he has the same humor and real personality, and also maybe never drinks and will never do drugs and wakes up early every morning and exercises. So that's been huge for me. Another thing, because I know you weren't necessarily asking about my social media approach, but more so changes within myself.
Yeah.
A big one. So I'm the discipline guy, right? That's what kind of people kind of get from me. If you go back a handful of years, to when I was doing the Uber Eats stuff and just delivering and all that, the discipline then was even more than now.
Hmm.
Because first of all, the effort that I put into being a better individual, it didn't have something to show for it, really, except for the discipline itself. Uh, so there was discipline there, right? I was doing the same inputs, no cool outcomes.
Hmm.
Also, nothing would get in the way of the perfect structure. As in, no, I'm not spending 20 extra minutes talking to somebody at wherever I'm at because I'm going to bed at 9. It was very robotic. People think I'm robotic now. Go back a couple of years and then you'll see what the deal was then. I am a lot more flexible in different ways. And people think that that has to come from dissolving, your responsibilities and the promises you keep. It doesn't have to be that, but I will sacrifice an hour of sleeping if I'm talking to someone awesome. And then the next morning I go, damn, dude, this sucks. And then I feel that, and then by the next day it's gone, and I sleep extra or whatever I need to do. But leaving more room for the things that are more distant in how obvious the outcome of it is. So that conversation is not going to make me more money. It's not going to make my schedule more productive. It's not going to do anything practically, but you never know what talking to somebody and enjoying that time and not feeling rushed could really lead to. So I kind of indulge in those more imperfect moments time wise because they are more perfect value wise and kind of a holistic sense, if that makes any sense.
Dude, so many things to say on that. First off, I totally agree. I think it was the second time we connected in Austin with Michael Smoke, Higher Up Wellness, and me and you were riffing on this, of this, like, me and you are very, we almost provide too much value in short form, and we don't show enough of our personality, when Michael is like so full on personality and still finds a way to blend in the kind of the value. So it makes it really difficult to say that. I remember when I first got started in social media, people kept telling me that I was providing too much value, and in my head I'm thinking, what the hell are you saying? I'm providing too much value? Wouldn't that mean more people would want to listen to it? But like you said, it's like, that's homework to most people, and they don't want to hear it. And from how much work that we've done, it almost is incomprehensible for a lot of people to even really take in what we're saying most of the time, because
Yeah.
it's difficult.
Yeah.
When it comes to the perspective that you have too, of the shifts that you've made and everything, I also, another guy, when we first connected, it was at a creator event,
Yeah.
and Cole Hastings was a guy I had on the podcast, and that helped me go to that event. And it's funny because when I was having my pod with him when I was in Austin, we were talking about this idea of productivity versus non-productivity. And it's like, that conversation that you may have with a stranger on the street doesn't really feel productive, and it may not be productive, but living your life through the lens of everything needs to be productive is almost getting away from the whole point of like existing and really experiencing life in its fullness. But on the flip side to that as well, discipline creates freedom. So just because you're disciplined and you go to bed at 9, I go to bed at 9 most times, kind of a thing, is like, that's what allows me to open up my life for spontaneity, because I'm able to create structure. Like, structure creates openness, freedom, spontaneity. Most people don't see it that way.
Yeah. So I'm glad you said that line exactly, because I've been having really good conversations about that, which stemmed from a question in my community that I run. So we do a weekly call, and somebody asked the question, does discipline equal freedom? And I kind of landed on maybe the best analysis of a concept that I've ever had. And I think it's really clarifying. So discipline definitely equals freedom. Every discipline, which there are a million different versions of discipline, has a corresponding freedom. And every freedom has a corresponding discipline. So on this call, on this group call that I had, one of the community members said, yeah, I mean, there's also a freedom to not being me,
Mhm.
in that I don't have to ice bath in the morning. I don't have to run in the morning. I don't have to eat a certain way. I don't have to go to the gym every single day. And I said, that is 100% true. And not even in a sarcastic way to kind of build up my own point. That is a real freedom. There's a corresponding discipline there. I'll get to that. My discipline is a huge pain in the ass, right? The discipline is doing all of these things that
Mhm.
suck, but they're kind of the anchor of something important. The freedom is that, well, I don't have to wonder what it's like to be that person that does the thing every time. I literally am that individual. So I go, oh wow, this is what it's like to never be in the way of achieving something, doing something consistently enough for it to turn into what you want it to be. So that corresponding discipline of all the freedoms that the person who doesn't do all of my bullshit gets is that they have to spend their life wondering what it must be like
Mhm.
to be that version of themselves that they aren't fulfilling. So my pain in the ass discipline is practical. Their pain in the ass discipline is existential, because it's a life of what if. I think that that is more painful than the daily chore of sitting in cold water, running, just exercising, which, I mean, for anybody that exercises, it just makes you feel better.
Amazing. Amazing.
So it's not just some, flatline discipline. Way more comes from it too. And you probably live longer, and you regulate your hormones enough to be able to see what life is actually like instead of constantly being in survival mode with your emotions. But that's besides the point. Both are fine options, but you have to know what the work and reward of each choice is. So yeah, discipline 100% equals freedom, and there's a lot of ways that that can actually look.
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. And yeah, I've lived through the mindset of, I want to get to the end of my life thinking I'm glad I did, not I wish I had. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people go through life kind of thinking like, well, man, I wish I had done that earlier in my life. And I'm always consistently being told that I'm an old soul, that I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that you're solo traveling when you're young, you're doing all these things. And it's like, well, I don't want to get to the end of my life wishing that I did and thinking, what if, right? It's like you're saying, like, you don't have to wonder what if. It's like, I am that dude kind of thing. And
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, dude, think of how many people. I mean, through being how you are, for example, you obviously know this, but think of how many people pass up on, excuse me, the lessons that come from everybody else's version of not doing that. I'm
hmm
sure you know plenty of people much older that are saying, "Oh, I wish I did this," and then you go, "Why would I not listen to them?" And most people will just not listen to them. But I go, "Man, there's a library of information that's just handed to kind of every young person." I mean, you always want to include, I guess, the people that maybe had the worst upbringing ever and all that kind of stuff. But God, I mean, it's becoming less of an excuse, because anybody can watch this podcast eventually.
hmm
Anybody can listen to thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of all of their favorite people that they find most successful. So, we all have that library of knowledge, and most people just pass up on it across the board.
Yeah. Well, dude, we're anomalies. I'm 21, you're 24. We're having this conversation, able to choose when we want to work and coaching people for a living. How does that make any kind of sense? It doesn't, right? I mean,
Yeah,
like, we couldn't have predicted it, but I
yeah,
mean, I always say, like, I didn't really have role models per se, but I had role models for what I didn't want. And so whether you have the role model or you don't, you can either say, I'm going to go down this path, or realize I don't want to live that kind of life. I'm just going to do the opposite. So
yeah,
you're right. I mean, people just don't take it into account though.
yeah. Well, I mean, along those lines, what do you think is really the difference between the person who grows up with the anti-example and
Hmm.
then chooses to learn from it versus the anti-example and then latches onto it? Because I mean, I would say I had so many examples of exactly what you're talking about as well. The anti-example, what do I not want? Boom,
Hmm.
makes sense almost immediately, right? Nobody nobody has to tell you, I don't think, that people being violent or screaming or drinking or doing drugs and being self-destructive is a bad thing. I think you just pick up on that.
Yeah.
But then again, for the most part, most people that grow up in that kind of environment will eventually take on those characteristics. Well, I mean, do
Yeah.
you think it's a fundamental thing? I genuinely don't know where that comes from.
I think two things that come to mind when you say that. One, I think most people aren't regimented like we are, right? Like, we're both in our early 20s. Neither of us drink. We go to bed early. Like, we have these priorities. We go to the gym. We rarely eat anything. I know that, like, don't eat anything unless we know what's in the food, kind of thing. Like, that's I'm seen as I eat. I have a diet because that's the
Yeah,
way that I eat, right? So, like, we're anomalies in the majority of people. So I think that there are certain people that they're wired to be that way. That doesn't mean that other people aren't able to eventually move down that path. But I think
yeah,
the second part of that is, I think a lot of people are either going to mirror what they saw. It's kind of like, if a female had an abusive father, she's going to go after an abusive guy because that's all she knows what to be true, right? It's not necessarily, she knows that that's in her subconscious. She knows that that's not the right thing to do, but she continues to go down that path because that is all she knows and all she believes to be possible for her. And so I think a lot of people go through life just choosing what they think is their only path. But like you said, you have so much awareness now to choose what your inputs are. This
yeah,
conversation, we've had so many people like we've connected with that, like, are examples of what is possible. And so I think it should be more than ever, the opportunity to kind of expand what's really possible. But I think a lot of
yeah.
people have a limited idea.
And that's the thing. I mean, even before being regimented, I mean, I'm talking about being 6
Yeah, yeah,
or 8 or 10, and you look back at that time, and even then, I mean, I didn't have to be told that what I was witnessing was negative. I just go, "Oh, yeah, this seems shitty."
yeah,
But then that's not always the case, and God, I mean, I'm such an optimist that, maybe there's a level of delusion in that. I think, God, if anybody trained just like Michael Jordan, for their whole life, maybe they could be Michael Jordan, but perhaps not,
yeah,
and gosh, if everybody just gave their absolute life to getting jacked out of their freaking teeth, well, then everybody could be Mr. Olympia.
yeah.
No, I know for a fact that's not true because God, I know people that we've trained the exact same for a really long time, and they are just way more jacked than me. And I go, okay, maybe there's a difference. But at the same time, I still hold a little bit of God, I want to believe that everybody is semi a blank slate when it comes to learning lessons from growing up. And just, the outcome societally, I guess, continues to try and disprove me. But I don't know.
Well, I think the cool part of that is that you're choosing that belief, right?
Yeah.
Is that belief serves you? I have a very similar belief because that belief is not the easy route, right? Like, if you believe that everyone is equal to you in some way, that means that you're going to show up enough times to, like, the guy that you said's more jacked than you, for example. Like, if you believe that you guys are equal, you're going to show up, and if you see that he's looking bigger than you are, it's going to be like, well, what's not making sense here? Am I not working hard enough? And then that puts more pressure on you, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
self-inflicted pressure. But most people don't want that pressure, and they choose to not have it.
That's true. I mean, also something I think is super helpful that was a tool for me growing up was seeing that any successful person any, person of a certain achievement is just a person when it comes down to it. Right. And so, for yourself, it puts more pressure, but then it also kind of levels the playing field and recognizing that, oh, it's not actually that far out of reach. It just comes down to the decisions that I want to make over, the amount of time I want to make those choices. And I think that's very clarifying. I think that's super powerful to have, especially as a young person, because I mean, for the most part, it's just, oh, I see this thing on Instagram. That's not me. I guess I suck. But being able to go, no, that's a person. That's a person. That's a freaking person. And that's what I always do. I say, dude, $5 million a month. Holy shit. Are you kidding me? Whatever. It's a person.
It's a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's they put their pants on the same way that I put my pants on. Like the amount of people, like even when great example when me and you when Michael had his event and we were all walking. We were talking and Michael was talking about how he met with Tim Kennedy. And I was speaking to him and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to record with Tim Kennedy in a few days kind of thing. And he literally is like, dude, what? You're going to speak with Tim? Like that's insane. Like how did you get that? And I'm like, I just emailed him. Like he's just like he said, yeah, I can and I could just go. And I'm like, you met him. You already met him. You took a picture with him, everything. You had a great opportunity to just be like, hey, would you come on my podcast? Michael has a way bigger audience than I do.
Yeah.
Michael could 100% get Tim on the podcast, but that belief of like that's just a human, I think grounds us to the point where we open up those opportunities rather than, and I bet Michael will have him on in the future, I'm sure, but it's like just having that belief of like, dude, like this is just a human. And I think for me, I'm almost 300 episodes in. I've spoken with billionaires. I've spoken with like people that have ran billion-dollar companies, everything in between. And it's like, well, it's just a human at the end of the day. And doing it over and over again reminds me of like, wow, like we put people on pedestals way too much. And I can imagine that you get this even from people, maybe not in Austin, because they're a bit different in Austin, but everyday people.
Yeah.
People probably say that they're not like you. Well, I'm not like you. I can't do that. I don't have that.
Yeah, I mean that's always been the thing.
Me too.
Even when I was younger, it's just, oh, I'm not everyone is wired like you. And I'm going, I
Whatever.
mean, then
Yeah.
rewire yourself. What can I say? Again, that's only if somebody wants my outcomes. And
Right.
a big part of what we're talking about, it's okay to not want the same outcomes as somebody else. This is something I emphasize hugely in my coaching or any sort of mentorship, is that don't base your priorities on what mine are, because if they end up not being accurate to your real ones, then your lifestyle is just going to become destructive.
Mm-hmm.
My version of stuff doesn't make sense for every single person. And talking to the billionaire, God, I mean, if I talk to a billionaire, I probably go, what is wrong with my, poor ass? And then I go, well, I don't think I actually want those same things.
Yes.
Oh, this guy's making $1 million every single month. I go, I don't want a sales team.
What's he sacrificing for it, right? Like
Right?
you get to choose your day. Your freedom is way better than someone's freedom that just because they make $1 million a month, it does not matter. But if you can't clock out at the end of the day, or you can't in the middle of the day go out to lunch with somebody, I don't think you have more freedom than me.
Yeah. And if I did want the $1 million a month, again, I can tap back into oh, that's just a person. What did they do? Surely I could achieve the same thing, but $1 million would only matter if it aligned with what I care about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my big thing on the way you get to somewhere is more important than the somewhere you get to, because I've used an example in I think a couple of my videos, but if you wanted to lose 20 pounds, you could just cut your leg off, but then you can't walk anymore. And if you want to get rich, you could just rob a bank, but then you probably spend a while in jail. It's just the outcome is not as, I don't know, holding a value as people think it is. So yeah, the route is pretty important.
So true, dude. I've had so many psychologists and people like that on the podcast, and one thing that I've been so fascinated with this past couple of years is the anticipation is almost more exciting than the actual achievement. So it's like, let's say someone wants to make $1 million and their pursuit to, I'll use the billionaire actually. We'll use a billion as an example. I had a billionaire on a couple months ago. and he sold 76 companies for $1.2 billion. His process of getting to that point was way more exciting than actually getting that $1.2 billion, because it's like, well, once that's gone, then you have no purpose. You've lost everything. And so it's like, most of the time, the thing that you want to get to isn't going to be what you actually want. It's like the person that you become in the process, of course, but even more so, it's like the 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 external result really isn't everything. Like,
Yeah.
what's the purpose of running every single day for 6+ years? You're not getting anything tangible from it. You know what I mean? Like, you run a little bit better, you might have some better cardiovascular, but like, you're not getting something tangible.
Yeah, and to add something to that almost inversely, I think that thinking it will give you something is okay.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I mean the money goals, for example, being a good person plus $1 million is way cooler than being a really good person and not $1 million. And I mean, I have a lot of goals that I want to achieve, but I know that the goal is not a solution. It's just kind of a checkpoint. And so,
Mm,
I have a close friend of mine, and he's really building his social media. He's got a lot of really good characteristics, ways of connecting with people, and just helping. Right, he wants to do something similar to what I do, and he was almost coaching himself away from being fixated on a certain goal of,
mm.
trying to make enough to where he can quit his job. Right. And he's saying, yeah, I shouldn't be thinking about that though, because X, Y, and Z, and kind of, explain. And I said, I mean, actually, I think maybe you should continue hyperfixating on that, because life, when you don't have the job and can just focus on this, will actually be way better. That will be way better. And so, there are some outcomes that you can get. It tangibly improves your life only if you recognize it's not a solution, though. And that now there's a new floor and now there's something else. As long as you're prepared for that,
Mhm.
goals are money. But people think it's going to solve a problem. Oh, once I become a famous actor, then I'll be chilling. Oh, wait, why do I want to kill myself? Oh, it's because, I thought the outcome was going to solve something, but there's some internal work to do too.
Yeah, dude, so true. And it's not even inversely, because it's very true. I believe in it too. I think almost having that delusional belief that it's going to solve everything is what give you the motivation to go after it and to achieve it. So like,
Yeah.
it makes sense, right? Like, if it wasn't exciting enough, we wouldn't have the motivation to go out and do the thing.
Yeah.
Um, when you were, I think it was after high school, you started a nutrition bar company. And
Yeah.
this was before like you doing all the things that you're doing today. What did that experience teach you about business, about your life, about yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fun one to talk about, because I started the company in my senior year of high school, and then that, in conjunction with, I know that the college experience on an emotional and mental level is just not going to be it. I mean, I couldn't have been more sure of something.
Me too.
And so
Yeah, yeah.
those two things were kind of, okay, I'm not going to go to school. I'm going to work on this business. And at the time, right, that was my thing. That was the thing that I cared about. And I thought it was going to be the thing that works out. I mean, as you do when you're working on something. Um, I mean, it was a literal company, a grassroots thing, you know, making enough energy bars to sell, and then use that money to buy packaging for the energy bars that you're trying to sell, and then you
Yeah.
have nothing. I mean, it's the 18-year-old budget.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I know all the drop shipper kids that are 14 and they make $1 million every day and all this stuff, and I'm going, God, it just doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem for me. I don't know.
Mhm.
Uh, so I mean, there were years of making energy bars, and I got a commercial kitchen facility, and we got certified organic and gluten free. And I mean, we're spending all this money, and hand sealing packages and stuff, and going to these little, I mean, I can't even say conventions, but just little events, and handing out
Yeah.
samples and doing the whole thing, man. It was, I'm stoked that I spent so much time doing that, because the skills that I learned from communicating with people and being organized, all the way to graphic design, building websites, video editing, advertising, Facebook ads, copy, writing. and all of this stuff is just forms of communication, which we can definitely get into, that being the literal foundation of confidence. Uh, but yeah, that was an interesting era because emotionally, again, I had nothing figured out, and so it was very, oh man, I really want this to work, and maybe we'll get in a few more stores, and then you kind of feel it pull away, and then there's this
Mhm.
whole thing, and you think that's the defining moment of your life, when that's nothing I'm doing right now, and it's worlds better than I thought it could be. But yeah, I mean, those skills that I gained, of course, it's a version of, I could say, oh well, the more you're willing to fail, the more you learn from it. Which is true, but those little sayings I feel like don't really resonate super closely when you're feeling the actual failure, and so, uh, yeah, I would have a hard time explaining exactly what the failure and then the win because of the failure looks like in kind of a short form, obviously, but there
Mhm.
really is a deeper aspect of that that I appreciate the heck out of, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't heard you speak about it, so I wanted to hear on it because that was something that I don't think you've spoken much on. But uh, I,
Now, yeah,
I agree on that as well when it comes to like the more you fail, the more you learn kind of thing. Because something I've said so many times, dude, is how many times have you been in an area where where you're next to someone that's in their 80s trying to give you advice, and it's just like the worst possible advice.
it is.
It's like, dude, like people, a lot of people are just as stupid as they were when they were 20 as they are when they're 70. And it's because not every failure is a learning lesson if you don't choose to learn the lesson. Like most people are learning the same thing for decades, for their entire life. So I don't
Yep.
necessarily see that to be true anyway, to be honest.
No, no, I mean, we all have the ability to hear someone's advice, assess whether or not we would want their outcomes, and then either accept or discard their advice. And
Mhm.
I discard a lot of advice,
Right.
most probably.
Yeah, dude, I feel that too. One thing that is really cool about like I think is like if people think of you, this is probably one of the biggest words that come up is extreme because you just have an extreme way of living, right? Like no coffee, caffeine, no drugs, no alcohol, nothing like that. I think the first time we met, we were both in um, a creator event where it was like an open bar for like 3 hours straight, and me and you were just sipping on like sparkling water, dude. It's like we look so. It's so like weird, like socially to not drink kind of thing.
Yeah.
When did that way of living start for you, and why do you think it stuck so long?
Yeah. So, I mean, my whole family drinks, everybody around me growing up, definitely kind of the normal. And then I don't know. I guess when you're little, you just hear oh, that's an adult beverage or whatever. And then you go, what the hell does that mean? Moving my computer here. You go, what does that mean? And then you kind of get curious about it. And I mean, it's funny because when I was in preschool, I mean, I would try and steal my mom's beer and then take a sip of it or whatever. And, that was a big thing. And I remember I did that when I was 4 or something. And then
Yeah.
my mom would tell the story to everybody, and I used to get furious about it. And I
Mm,
hated it so much. And I just went, what is this? You know what I mean? And I can't say that my train of thinking was super refined back then, but there was some sort of wonder around it. And then around middle school, I just started to get so turned off by, there's kids wanting to go and drink and they're trying to act like these adults and they're hot shit. They don't know anything. How is this 12-year-old going to act like some big party guy and, doing all this stuff? And so I started to just kind of have a distaste for it. And I decided that, yeah, I just definitely don't want to do that ever. It makes no sense. Cause maybe when I was in elementary school, I'd say, yeah, maybe I'll drink, when I'm older, just like my mom does or something, just kind of casually or something. And then by that time I said, yeah, I don't want to. And then anytime I would express that to somebody, it's just the average. Oh, when you're 21, you're definitely going to want to
mhm.
drink. And, it's just all part of it. And then those kinds of statements would bug me like crazy because it would make me angry. And I go, why is this person telling me this? I feel like they don't know what they're talking about. And there's no way that I can disprove them right now. So they just have, years of time on their side to make their argument seem good, but that's ridiculous. And I would always take those things on. And what it actually turned into was an anxiety, because I would go, well, what's going to happen that, when I'm 21, it's just something's going to change. Am I going to just be convinced? And because I feel like I'm pretty stubborn, I don't think someone's just going to tell me to do something. What is actually going to happen? And so I would be trying to figure out what that was. And the only thing I could conclude was they're just saying something. I mean, it's not, there's no truth to what they're saying about me. It's just a projection of what was the case for them
Mhm.
and what would make them feel more comfortable about them if it were to happen to me. And through that, I gained a gnarly confidence in nobody can get me to do anything I don't want to do. And the fire department comes to your elementary school and they say, oh, well, someone's going to offer you something and, don't take it and don't eat it. And, there's all these stories and this guy died and this happened. I go, okay, Roger that. I'll never take anything from anyone. This is easy. And my whole life going through middle school, high school, and on, I've just been waiting for somebody to offer me something so I can say no, because I built up this concrete confidence in saying no. And no one ever asked me. I'm going, damn, nobody? You're not, no one's going to ask me. I think maybe when I was, maybe around 17, I grew up in a interesting area. But I was riding my skateboard. Then some dude said, hey man, you smoke that angel dust or you do that angel dust? I said, no, what's that? And he said, oh, and then explained it to me. I said, no, I'm good. And then I did a backflip off of this tree stump in his yard for this music video he was filming. And then I said, man, that's my only shot. All right. I guess that wasn't all it was built up to be. But again, just built up this gnarly confidence in saying no. And now I am just ridiculously thankful to have never gone through that process of spending years essentially trying to be on the same page as people that I would like to connect with, as in every other person my age, going to the bar, just trying to be on that same mindset, same wavelength, and
Mhm.
realizing that's empty after years and years of, just drinking poison bullshit every weekend. And man, what a pleasure. I mean, and it's the part that makes it great is you don't have to be, some square uh, annoying person about not drinking. I mean, you can be normal, which most people are not. Most people that don't drink are actually annoying as hell, and they annoy me. They ruin it.
Yeah, dude. No, I feel that so much, man. And it's. I mean, I've never met a sober person that regrets getting sober ever, actually.
Yeah.
And it was never like I was never. I don't know. I think I'm curious if you were this way too, because growing up, I never was like, oh man, like I really want to get drunk. Like I really wonder what that feels like. Like I just never wondered genuinely, and so it was never intriguing to me, kind of thing.
Yeah. Because I mean, I had seen it enough, and I go, well, that
Right.
doesn't seem good. Yeah, I never saw that as appealing. And fun is accessible to me just as much as it is accessible to someone who's drunk. And I mean, I've always been crazy and say funny things anyways, so I don't really need that.
Yeah. Well, I think even too outside of drinking too, like no caffeine,
Yeah.
like and it's not even a protein shake, no indulging in nothing but like just whole foods, straight whole foods. I've actually been wanting to ask you this. This is something that I'm always curious about. You're a rice and beef guy, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm a beef and potatoes guy. I'm a sweet
Yeah.
potato. I love sweet potato. Why do you choose rice over any potato?
Yeah. Because I like potatoes when they're crispy, and slicing a potato is just a pain in the ass to me.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
I just hate the time spent to do it. But yeah, I've maybe had a sweet potato twice ever. And then, dude, a good old golden potato,
Oh man,
so
dude.
good. I mean,
I
I just love the crunchy, crispy aspect instead of the mushy. Can't
yeah.
do it.
No, I get it. I mean, I air fry my potato, so it comes out crispy, it comes out great. But like
Okay.
Dude, I've been a sweet potato guy for a long time. Beef and potatoes, like nobody's business. And I was always curious because I see so many people with beef and rice, and I'm just like, what's the hype around rice? Like, I love rice, but I think potatoes are better than rice all day, personally.
I mean, I might throw it in. I see. What's the deal with air frying though? I mean, is that some? Is it just great and there's nothing to it?
I love it personally. I think air frying for me is just like one, it's way quicker. Like if I put a potato in the oven, for example, it's going to take like 10 hours to cook. It feels like
Yeah.
if I put in the air fryer, give me 30 minutes. I go and I'll make my ground beef as I'm making it or something like that, and it's done by the time I'm done. So, and like you said, you like a crispy potato, it's going to come out crispy.
Maybe that's money, bro. Whenever because air frying became a thing not too long ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I saw it. I go,
Game.
there's got to be some bullshit to this. See, everything is guilty until proven innocent in my mind. So at first I went, yeah, all these people keep telling me to air fry stuff, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I get
maybe
it.
I'll have to give it a shot.
I mean, I'm similar to you as well, though, where like I like as minimal as I can, right? So like I don't like all the ingredients, all that extra stuff. If I put it in the air fryer, I don't have to spray any oil on it. I don't have to put nothing with it. I just put it in there and take it out, and it's exactly as it was made to be. There's nothing
Okay.
I have to like. There's people that you go and you go into a restaurant and you get a steak, and there's so much more in that steak than you would if you were to make it at home, right? Like I often when I go out to eat, I think, wow, I just would have rather made my meal because I know what's in it. I know I'm going to be a lot more full from a pound of ground beef than I would from a little tiny smash patty. Like I would rather choose that than going out most times. But
Yeah,
like, yeah,
so
yeah.
true. I've eaten at a restaurant probably twice in the past 365 days. Crazy.
How do you like you live with your videographer and someone else, I think, like
Yeah,
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 yeah, editor, that's what it was. I was like, it's not your assistant. I know that's not it,
yeah.
but how has that experience been moving to Austin? It's been almost a year. Like you don't go out like at least for food, that kind of thing, but like how's that experience been for you?
Oh, dude, it's so good. It's so good. That's one of those uh, life changed because the external changed a little bit,
Yeah.
and then the same internal me just life increased tenfold because of it. Probably the biggest version of that by far, just because I mean building communities and having people that are on the same
Shoot.
kind of wavelength, and it's not a moral or internal conflict by any means. Yeah, life has gotten so much better. It's crazy. Because yeah, back home it's a beautiful place, but there's not that aspect of young people ambition. And
Mhm.
if you met someone back home who's kind of starting their own small business, it's just not going to work out kind of thing. Yeah,
I
yeah,
wasn't gonna
yeah.
support it.
But then here, people are just rushing it, because somewhere in the world, people are doing the thing and it's going really well. And that
Mhm.
happens to be here. And you go, oh, shoot, I thought I was doing pretty good. And then the next guy's got, this business that's going crazy and he knows this person. And you go, oh, this is cool. So that's been really, really good. And then I mean, having my videographer and my editor, and we're working together and talking about things every day, trying to be creative. That's been a huge part of it because I can know that there's a great effort behind the YouTube, which is the thing that I really care most about right now. And the focus of the YouTube is not money right now, but I'm stoked to be in a position where I can pay two people to be a part of my team for that because long term that's going to mean a heck of a lot. And I love it. I love YouTube because again, going back to what we were talking about before, just the
Short form, long
long
form.
form ideas in long form. Uh, and man, I'm kind of a raw, just talking to people kind of guy, just being honest. But I love super cinematic, really good storytelling, crazy shots, and all this kind of stuff. And so the fact that I now have the podcast where that can just be the raw, just boom, talking about something,
Hmm.
nothing else to it. And then, man, picking out the music and making the shots and the color grading and all that. Oh, man, that's so fun. And I think both are just essential, to what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, dude, it's so true. I mean, uh, by the way, your YouTube is it's gonna crush, bro. You're at like a little bit less than 10K subs now, right now. I think the thumbnails. I've watched a couple of of your episodes, like day in the life or eating, like weekend, week stuff like that. Like, dude, it's you're doing it right, and I'm glad that you shifted more towards that because it probably gives you a lot more energy than the short form does. That stuff. After how long you've done it, it's now a chore, I would assume, and that's it's not a good use of your time. If you're going to spend time on something that isn't directly going to bring money to you, you might as well do something that you enjoy in that, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
the shift, right?
Yeah, man, 100%. I mean, I appreciate that, first of all. I mean,
For
I
real.
just when somebody says, "Man, I saw your YouTube video and it helped." I mean, that sounds different to me than, "Oh man, I love your Instagram videos and they help me so much." Which,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to downplay anybody that reaches out and say, "Look, I made these changes from watching your videos every day." That's crazy to even hear, ever.
Yeah.
But then, someone came up to me at the gym the other day and he said, "Man, this is my first day in Austin. I just moved here, and I watch all your videos, and I loved the 5 a.m. video." He's talking about one of the YouTube ones, and I went, "No way!"
Hmm.
And he showed me his group chat with his friends, sending it around. And I went, "Man, that's just a different thing," because I know I actually got to talk about something in that
Hmm.
video, and that sort of stuff makes a difference. And so, yeah, no, I appreciate hearing that, and it feels good to put out a video. And I'm kind of at that stage now. It's maybe 1,000 views to 4,000 views and whatnot, and even then I just go, "Man, this is so much cooler."
It is because, dude, it's like a piece of art almost, right? Like every episode that I release, it's like this, it's like my baby that I'm putting out into the world that I just want people to like, just like you said, it's like they're getting an actual idea of who you are. And
Yeah.
in shorts, you just can't really do that, not well at least. Um, and it's cool too when you get people like that are like, dude, like, yeah, I love your podcast. Like, I was in Austin for a coaching event when I was down when we connected, and the amount of people that said that they've watched my podcast before, like, "Oh, my son loves you," or something like that. I'm like, people like listen to this thing? Like that's actually in the world? Like it's so ironic because we're doing it every day. Like you're posting the YouTube videos, but it still feels weird to think that people are actually like watching it because you're so intensely involved with it that when it
Oh
actually goes
yeah.
out into the world, it's like, dude, like what? Like people are watching this shit?
Yeah, I put it on my story the other day, but somebody had posted on their story, just watching my podcast.
Yeah.
It was one of those big, IMAX screens,
Hmm.
and it was just me on there. But I've seen enough of my own damn face on my own screen. But then I see a photo of the computer, and it's just someone's food, and then my face. And I went, "Whoa, that is so crazy! I don't know this person."
It's so, dude, it's the coolest thing. Yeah, dude, I'm glad that you're moving into it. To talk about like what you do behind the scenes, like coaching and everything. We're both really young, so I'm assuming that when you got into coaching as well, people had the same expectation or thought around how are you a coach as I did when I got into coaching.
Yeah.
What were some of the people that helped you step into coaching? Some of your role models, some of the people that kind of helped you figure out how you wanted to be a coach, why you wanted to be a coach, what a coach even means. Like, what was
Yeah.
that beginning phase for you?
Oh, I mean, so I was gonna just make videos until the cows came home, and I had no business mind around my content, which I always considered myself to be an entrepreneur and want a business. And then I kind of found that that wasn't really the part that excited me. It was just the idea of changing people's lives and making the world a better place and trying to become a better household name than Kim Kardashian or something. And I was just going to keep making videos. And then a now friend of mine actually reached out because he was kind of a coach for coaches kind of guy. And he reached out to me to essentially be a testimonial to what he does. And he would help me kind of structure some things. And then we had a few conversations, and he just, you know, completely free, just helped me organize everything around that.
Mm.
And then I kind of took it from there. Always kept it very simple. It's pretty similar to how it is now. I don't have a program that takes people through a certain thing. I mean, I tried the video program thing at one point, and I said, dude,
Mhm.
I can't because I'm not teaching people how to grow on social media. I'm teaching people how to think about their own life. It's too abstract. I'm
Yeah.
taking this down or whatever. So, getting into that, he basically just told me you could be teaching people these things right to their face. You could be helping people actually make changes. Um, and man, I've taken that to the point I'm at now. It's just the best. It's so rewarding, to see people make realistic changes. And I'm not a big outcome guy as, oh, do my coaching and then you get this, lose
Right.
20 pounds or
Yeah.
make $10,000 a month or whatever it is. When somebody makes the step to actually work with me, I go, oh, this person's legit, because from the conversation I have with them leading up to, hey, do you want to get this thing started or not? It's very obvious how I
Hmm.
think about things. And I don't sugarcoat it. I don't make empty promises and that kind of thing. And I've just worked with so many incredible people that are the real version of willing to think through the hard questions and make realistic changes. Um, I was having a conversation with one of my clients today, and for almost her whole life, she struggled with her relationship with food. And I said to her, I said, she had just a huge win, and I can kind of get into what that looked like. But I said, I wish I could package every bit of work that you've done over the last year
Hmm.
leading up to this one situation, and show somebody what that actually looks like and be able to explain it, which I can't, because we've had conversation after conversation, hour after hour after hour, and win over loss and win over loss. And simply, she had the temptation to go, eat something that she doesn't see as what she wants to have eaten, right?
Hmm.
Doesn't align with her goals. And she said, I decided to go do that. And then in the process of going, I then had enough awareness to not, and
Hmm.
pull myself out of that and not do it. And then I didn't. And I said, that's a huge deal. That is everything that we're working for. It's not that you just listen to me and I said, don't eat that thing. And then you listen for 30 days and say, oh, stuck to my diet for 30 days. We've built enough purpose and enough awareness of what you care about in your life to make a conscious decision against that, and then catch yourself in the middle, pull yourself out, and then not make the bad decision.
Hmm.
That, I go, this is insane. And people don't realize that those little things are the biggest moments ever. They're just wanting to say, I lost 50 pounds in most cases, or I cut out sugar, or just these stupid ass sayings. And I work with people that make real freaking changes. And I get so excited about that, because I go, that is a fundamental change, as fundamental as it gets. And man, it's a hard process. Not a lot of people want that, and that's fine. But I know that that is actually changing someone's life, and that's why it's so fulfilling to me. Um, and so just to be able to call that, my job, is friggin' sick.
Dude, it doesn't. It Yeah, I can relate. It doesn't feel real most of the time because it's just like you're not the person that's doing the work, right? The client is the one that's like actually showing up for themselves. So like you can't even get all the credit, but to be the person that was the person that helped that person step into the person that they want to be, like you said, like that seems so insignificant to probably most people. But for you and the client that you're working with, that like sacred bond that you guys have, that you've like helped them, and that bond that they've been able to create with them within themselves because of it,
Yeah,
dude, like the most powerful stuff in the world. It really is. There's no amount of money that can give you the fulfillment and joy that you get when a client does something that they said they wanted to,
I know.
or like just shows up for themselves, man. It's so freaking rewarding.
Yeah, because I mean, you
Dude.
see, you see the micro moments of the I can't do it, or
Hmm.
I'm just falling below the line again. And then you go through tens, hundreds, thousands of iterations of that exact kind of up and down sort of thing. And as long as you become okay with continuing to work through, continuing to refine, then there's these little moments where you go, oh man, something actually worked or something actually clicked. But it's not the kind of, oh, it clicked like people are hoping for.
Mm.
It's on the tail end of a lot of work, a lot of work. And you just become really proud to see people that have enough courage to make those changes. It's very, very different. And it might look the same. As in, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't eat junk food. That comes in a lot of different packages.
Yeah. I think that the cool thing when you're working with people is you're seeing people that are actually committed. Most people are interested. Most people are interested. They like to think on the idea of the change. But when you actually invest into yourself and you commit to making the change, well, now it's kind of like it's up to you. And then like
Yeah.
you have no excuses because you've committed. Um,
Yep.
dude, yeah, I could talk about this stuff all day, dude. I'm so grateful that we've been able to connect. There's one last question I ask every guest.
Yeah.
My question for you is, what belief are you currently unlearning?
Hmm. Hmm. Let's see. Gosh, I feel like I'm always unlearning everything just because you always put stuff to the test. I
Hmm.
mean, I think just what stands out to me right now because it's so at the front of mind is that the consistency and the perfection in that realm of just repetition and doing it again and again and again.
Hmm.
Um, I think I've always known this, so maybe I'm not unlearning it, but it doesn't work. Just being super duper disciplined, which seems like the epitome of human mental performance, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, seems like that's the peak. And there's still way more after that because there's this idea. Let's say somebody's a salesperson and they hit a great month in sales. And then the next month, they're going to try to apply the exact same formula.
Hmm.
And then it's not going to work. And then there's going to be a pit in their stomach. And then they're going to feel like that success is fleeting. And I'm trying to make sure that I stay away from any sense of a formula as possible because it never has longevity to that. Which,
Hmm.
again, I've always known, but I don't think I've always really taken on and acted on and left room for that creative aspect. I mean, I have a business, right? And I got to the point in my business where the prices are so high that damn near nobody can can work with me or be a part of my group. And so literally, right now, as in before jumping on this call, I'm looking through the applications to either my coaching or my community and seeing so many amazing stories and ideas and just versions of energy and ambition that are great and they just can't afford it. And then I'm going, man, now the formula, that's supposed to be put in place to make sure that I'm not spending too much time, getting on a
Hmm.
call with every single person, right? And that kind of presents the value that I'm providing to people and manages everything well. Well, now I'm missing out on a ton of great people. How can I build a new system? How can I be more creative that allows that to come to light? Because these are a ton of people, and of course, I have the want to help everybody mentality, and you can't always do that, but it can't hurt to build systems around having more flexibility. So, yeah, man, trying to get away from the formula mindset, trying to not prioritize just repetition.
Mm.
Has to be repetition, and then maybe something needs to change. and then some repetition there, and then something doesn't work anymore, and then more repetition there. It's just that evolution, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, consistency requires iteration, dude, and
Yeah.
it's difficult to like take in that because I think I'm similar to you in the sense of when I add something into my life, it's very hard to eliminate it. Like if you add in a mile running every single day, what am I gonna do? Just stop running? Like what if I add in the ice bath? Am I just gonna stop doing the ice bath every day? It's like no, like I'm not gonna just not do it. It made me a better version. Now I need to continue doing it. You've seen what works. It's worked this far, but sometimes iteration needs to happen because you're dealing with different problems. So it makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, and for a lot of people, iteration can mean, yeah, I'm kind of sick of this. It's difficult. I don't want to do it anymore, and it's kind of a way out. But
Hmm.
yeah, I cherish being in a cool spot where I'm looking for iterations. I've taken care of the. I'm very willing to do the difficult things, but
Hmm.
then when you find something that is still difficult, is fulfilling, and is new, then it makes a lot of sense, right? Because I could say, "Oh, I'm just gonna quit the social media thing because I hate trying to put my ideas out there. Nobody cares about it or whatever." It's
Yeah.
no, I'm actually really excited to essentially be starting over with YouTube and podcast. It's so fulfilling, and then short form still has its place. And I'm not a good short form content creator, and I'm not saying that to fish for a compliment. Genuinely, I did not build a following off of incrementally each video doing better and better and building. No, one video blew the freaking roof off, and then every video kind of grabbed onto the engagement of that, and then some stuff did really well and then built over time. But it wasn't because I was a strategic short form content creator.
Right.
It's because I said one thing that freaking ripped. And so now I'm going, okay, starting over. I need to be decent short form content creator because that still matters. Great communicator,
Hmm.
great solo podcaster, great YouTuber, amazing coach, because really what it comes down to is when I work with somebody, that's what I freaking care about.
Hmm.
And that just, it's different. It's not necessarily the comfort zone, but it just makes so much more sense and his world's more fulfilling. And that I'm just really excited about.
Yeah. Dude, this conversation's been awesome. Uh, I'm certain when I get back to Austin, we'll have to do an in-person one again to rip this back. But thanks for your time, brother. All of your links and stuff will be in the show notes. But is there anywhere you'd like to direct people?
Man, YouTube podcast, short form if you dare.
Cool, brother. Thank you.
Thanks so much.